I mean, have you
Sure
seen what
is.
Shopify CEO? I mean, we've talked about CEOs in a couple of episodes back, and AI replacing CEOs. It looks like someone is taking notes and trying to jump ahead and replace their employees with AI. uh,
I did see the memo you're talking about from the Shopify
uh,
CEO, only because you shared it with me. I was thankfully blissfully ignorant of that one until you shared it with me. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think the kind of official line is no new hires unless you can make the case that AI cannot do the task for you. Is that a pretty good summary of the key takeaway?
yeah, I mean, some of it was good, some of it was just shit. Like,
Yeah. I
like
mean, it's
yeah,
interesting, right?
embracing.
I mean, if you think about companies at the C-suite level, whether it be a CEO, a CFO, probably increasingly CMOs, like reducing the cost to deliver, increasing efficiency, finding ways, especially to reduce things like your indirect labor, right? The labor that's not related to delivery of services, anything that you can do around process automation, and then of course on the delivery side, you make your business model even more scalable to the extent that you can use, whether it's simple process automation or more advanced kind of agentic type, AI bots and things like. I mean, honestly, I sort of get the sort of bean counter financial numbers around why it's appealing. I think where the techno pessimists like myself need to push back is just kind of finding the guardrails and the limits, right? Like how far can you push those things before you start to lose out on things that are really valuable that actual reasoning, thinking human beings bring to the table. And I guess it'll be the next few years are going to be really interesting finding out where that balance point is, right?
Yeah, I mean,
um,
we've been using AI, and like our clients have been using AI, we've been using AI, our partners were using AI. Like
yeah.
AI,
Hello and welcome to the Digital Disruption Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey through the ever-evolving world of digital transformation. In each episode, we explore the latest trends, strategies, and insights that are reshaping industries and driving innovation. Whether you're a business leader, technologist, or simply curious about the future, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we deep dive into the transformative power of technology and its impact on businesses, society, and our daily lives. Get ready to unlock the secrets to success in the digital age. Let's begin.
hey, good morning, Patrick. It's morning, right?
Almost afternoon, but it's still morning, Daoud. Good evening to you.
I called the morning because we're always having our meetings and just podcasts in the early morning on on your
That's
clock.
right.
So,
That's
uh,
right.
no, how's everything been going?
Good. It's finally turned to spring here in Billings, Montana. It's almost time to get the boat out, and I've been able to get up into the mountains a little bit and do a little bit of shooting here and there, a little target shooting. Got to get my bow back out, get some archery in. So been having a good time. I was in Cairo and Istanbul in February, as you know,
Yeah,
which was a lot of fun, and we got to have some coffees and spent some time visiting, which was really nice to do in person. So yeah,
it was great having you on the summit and the rest of the company. And,
yeah,
hunting is one of the things that hopefully, hopefully, AI will not cross into because it looks like I'm gonna get AI in my cereals at the morning. You know, I swear, I swear. I wonder what AI tastes like. It probably does not taste good, but you know, it's in everyone's mouth right now. I swear. It's been shoved down our throats from everything. I swear to God. I mean,
it
have you
sure
seen what
is.
Shopify CEO? I mean, we've talked about CEOs in couple of episodes back, and AI replacing CEOs. It looks like someone is taking notes and trying to jump ahead and replace their employees with AI.
I did see the memo you're talking about from the Shopify
Oh,
CEO only because you shared it with me. I was thankfully blissfully ignorant of that one until you shared it with me. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think the kind of official line is no new hires unless you can make the case that AI cannot do the task for you. Is that a pretty good summary of the key takeaway?
yeah. I mean, some of it was good, some of it was just shit. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
like
it's
yeah,
interesting, right?
embracing.
I mean, if you think about companies at the C-suite level, whether it be a CEO, a CFO, probably increasingly CMOs, like reducing the cost to deliver, increasing efficiency, finding ways, especially to reduce things like your indirect labor, right? The labor that's not related to delivery of services, anything that you can do around process automation, and then of course on the delivery side, you make your business model even more scalable to the extent that you can use, whether it's simple process automation or more advanced kind of agentic type, AI bots and things like. I mean, honestly, I sort of get the sort of bean counter financial numbers around why it's appealing. I think where the techno pessimists like myself need to push back is just kind of finding the guardrails and the limits, right? Like how far can you push those things before you start to lose out on things that are really valuable that actual reasoning, thinking human beings bring to the table. And I guess it'll be the next few years are going to be really interesting finding out where that balance point is, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been using AI, and like our clients have been using AI. We've been using AI. Our partners were using AI. Like
Yeah,
AI in itself is not. It's a tool. You can use it, for the bad. You use it for good.
right.
But I think what pisses me most from that CEO like note is it it disregards how much value a human can add to
Yeah,
a role that he jumps right into. Like if we look at like our podcast, let's say for example, I don't imagine us interviewing an AI because AI will not have like the background, the experiences, the knowledge. It hasn't been in the trenches trying multiple things and
yeah,
failing, trying multiple things and winning. It doesn't have that, touch of there is a human, there is a human side to the business, even the business does. And corporate seem, all dark, and it reminds me of Severance. If you have not seen Severance, you should definitely do. It's on Apple Plus. Is it
oh, I
Apple?
did watch that. Yeah,
Apple
there's
something.
some. It's pretty disturbing
It's
movie or
it,
series in some ways. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
AI like this is what like CEOs think that companies and like employees do. They just like pop, 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 and then we're done. But
yeah.
this is definitely not what I mean, yeah, AI is gonna replace some low level jobs. A lot of things can
Mhm.
be automated, but if you try to hire someone, let's say for my role, which is creating content for e-CENS, yeah, I do use AI, but good luck trying to replace me with AI. Good luck
Yeah,
trying
no,
to
it's
find
an
a
yeah,
podcast host.
yeah, yeah. You bring up an interesting point, and I mean, for me, just watching things unfold, right? We're not going back like artificial intelligence as this large umbrella, right, of different like methodologies, models, ways of creating sort of human like reasoning outputs and task delivery, right? There's a lot of interesting and powerful things happening. um, the most interesting use cases are some combination of human intelligence, design, really designing an appropriate use case solution, and then applying the kind of computational power and scale, and automation, automatability, right? So the things that I've seen that are most interesting are some combination of kind of art and science to some degree, and I think that will continue to be the case. And I think in a lot of organizations, I mean, it's like every conference you go to, right? Every third piece of content on LinkedIn is like you said, it's just like forced down your throat. This AI, like it's just like it's either AI, or if it's not AI, it's ML, which ML is just like sort of one facet of AI, right? So
Yeah.
it's so, and just so we don't get stuck in our own algorithmic world and acronym world, AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning. So we we should put the pause button sometimes, and we should say, like, for example, like you also see all of these posts. AI readiness. Is your organization ready for AI? Well, let's kind of look at a few different quadrants. Like, let's just look at like the big one from a adoption standpoint. Generative AI, right? All of the different GPTs or generative pre-trained transformers, like they're here. They're. This isn't like, are you ready for it? It's like you're either using them or you're not. And most people in a professional setting are using them at least for some purposes, right? Like most people haven't, like, say, totally transitioned from search engines to GPTs, but most people are using some combination. Or like, are you like one of the things I like to do is some basic data prep. Like if I pull raw data pulls from different data sources, I'll use ChatGPT to do some basic data prep, data normalization. That would, like, it's not good use of my time manually, and I also don't want to write SQL to do it. It's just a one-off thing for a very specific case. There's certainly a lot of the manual development of computer code that's kind of going away, right? So you have software engineers that are designing the framework and the schema of the solution, what should happen, how the process should flow, but a lot of the kind of rote coding tasks are being taken over by GPTs. So I think the idea that people are still asking this question of AI readiness is in one way is like, on one side of my mouth, I'm going to say, well, it doesn't really matter if you're ready. Your people are already using these tools. And honestly, in all likelihood, like most companies have some licenses already for the enterprise or paid versions of some of these tools, because you do get more functionality, more volume, right? All of these things. There's even like GPT aggregators, right? Like Poe.com, right? You can
Yeah.
have a subscription and you can do queries on multiple GPTs.
True.
And it's kind of charged like utilization of, tokens essentially. So, like that piece is already here. It's already being adopted. It's like, and you can even see the adoption curves on like ChatGPT, like the number of new users that they acquired. It was like one of the steepest and fastest like acquisition curves ever, right? In the last like 40 years of any new tool, right? So, and that ability, right, to use basically natural language prompts, and to kind of start a quote unquote human like chat, and to actually revise that conversation, right, by refining the prompt. And then even like over time, you yourself as a human, you get better at quote unquote engineering prompts. So you get better at telling the GPT what you want it to do, and the GPT gets better at providing you with results, right? So that world, like, people should keep investing in. Like, there's no reason to think they're not going to. But the idea that, like most companies or individuals are going to design one of these GPTs themselves, right? Like, and more specifically, the underlying large language models that those GPTs are built on top of, right? Other than like you like in GPT, like in Chat GPT, if you have a license, you can create a custom GPT, right, which has your own data sources incorporated, APIs, et cetera. But that's not, you're not really designing an entirely new GPT on top of the framework, right? You're leveraging the functionality that exists. So most people, right? But a big piece of what's happening in AI are these large, either foundational models or these large language models. That's like a lot of the adoption by individual people and by companies is these the functionality that's driven by those models. But most companies and most people are not going to invest in actually spinning up a new model, right? It's profoundly expensive. Like even though the costs have come down, like it's these models have literally like billions of parameters, right? That all get like tuned and trained over time. It's just not something, even with the declining costs of computation and GPUs, it's still not cost effective for your average, company or individual to like spin up these models. So, but we're all going to take advantage of the ones that have been done and that will continue to be done. We've already talked about generative AI. I mean, how frequently, let's say in a day, in a week, do you use some generative AI tool?
Oh, every day.
Yeah. How much every day?
I mean, if I'm working,
Yeah. Well, if you're working, yeah.
I probably have ChatGPT, Gemini. I don't use Bow. I use Open Router. I feel like it has much more like great models. Everything that comes up new, it's on Open Router. So Open Router is
Yeah.
great. I have a couple of like generative models out there, but I've been loving Gemini. I use Claude. I use ChatGPT because we, as a company, I have a subscription.
Yeah.
And I just, I pretty much use it 2 to 3 times a day if I'm working on something, trying to refine, maybe more, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm to the point. I'm like I play with them because I need to for the work we do, but in terms of for outputs, I'm probably to the point maybe once a day. I use it for something. I still like for search. I'm still kind of a search engine guy. I still like Google for most just sort of general search stuff. Um, so from that standpoint, it's not a big contributor for me. Though I know like we in all of our clients, especially like our e-commerce clients, we see increasing amounts of GPT referrals in their analytics data. So from a consumer standpoint, it's definitely right here. You see a lot of the big SEO players are, have already and are continuing to develop content about how to ensure that you're optimized for the different GPTs, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of understand like what is your brand footprint, not only within search engines, and within social media platforms, but now within these, GPTs. So these are all things I guess in that sense, like every brand and every person probably should be kind of playing in the generative AI space at this point, and to some degree, but how often do you have a GPT output, let's say like an email or a piece of content, and do you just copy and paste it and be done with it? Does that ever happen?
I mean, sometimes it depends on what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess for what purposes would you do that?
if it's something that I have not been exposed to before, I would definitely ask GPT to role play the like the character that would output such you know
Sure,
such
sure.
um, such output, and then I'll let it use it. run it, and just like give me an output that would get vetted by someone else. So,
That's
like
what I
if it's
mean.
a
That's what I'm saying. You would never just copy and paste that and like say send it to a client or publish it online, right?
nah, it needs to be vetted.
Yeah. All right. I'm the same way. Like to me, nothing like I just like fully automated communications or outputs and deliverables. I'm not there. I'm definitely not there.
No, I'll tell you a fun story. So we get a lot of like emails, cold outreach. We do some, so I'm not gonna hate on the people. But I was getting some emails from someone I don't know. It was a cold outreach. I wasn't interested, but there was like some kind of characters that it's like an HTML. I think it was like bracket, like this bracket, and it has like PR, which is like break line, but I'm not sure if it was break line or not. And
Uh
then the bracket was
yeah,
closed,
yeah.
and it was all over the email, like every sentence has it. And I was like, that does not look right. And
No, so
I've got these emails. I got to the point, like, that does not look right. And I was playing with a lot of AI models, and I think it was Quen. So Quen was the one who outputs these like characters after each
yeah, yeah.
sentence. And I was like, dang, dude. So you've been sending me such like fully automated emails without looking at them, and like
Uh,
it's not the content it gave you out. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the not refining the small bits that
Yeah. Now
it was so obvious. Like
oh yeah. Now what I do think is really powerful is if you do the reverse. If you craft if you craft really well designed, fully vetted, human generated original raw materials content like image assets, nice backgrounds, templates, and copy that's been fully vetted. And then there are elements that you want to kind of like personalize and tweak, like at scale and in an automated fashion, like based on inputs. Now that to me is really powerful. And I know, there's a lot on the creative side of digital advertising, a lot of personalization and like hyper versioning of creative, is happening. Efficiencies of workflows. Like, I mean, I think, we've talked about this in the past, like the whole deep fake,
yeah.
versus personalization. I do think, I mean, honestly, if it's literally like a roll of, like tape for a grip, and you have 30 different colors, like, I think like using AI process to change the color of this roll of tape in my hand, like I don't think you're misleading anybody because you're
Yeah,
selling
no.
all 30 of those rolls of tape, right? Like big deal, right? But from an efficiency standpoint, that's a huge win, right? If you can just update product colors, right? And it's, I get why people want to do that type of stuff. As long as you have the underlying assets are really good quality, I think that's awesome. That type of stuff is amazing. But so I can appreciate kind of the scalability piece, the velocity at which you can create versioning, ideation. Like I know like creatives and design people, kind of like doing like an initial ideation based on a concept. And then you kind of, once you narrow it down to like 3 or 4 ideas, then you kind of start kind of using your more traditional design type processes and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things people are doing. But like you said, oops, excuse me. But like you said at the top of the episode is like our like we need to push back on that sense of the full removal of the human. I think there should be some noteworthy skepticism and cynicism around that, especially for some key aspects of what not only what we do, but in any industry, there's just a certain art and craft that is not negligible.
I mean, I think that eventually AI will develop such a framework like digital maturity that you'll have companies in buckets, and each bucket is more advanced in AI. So, it's
Yeah.
nascent, emerging, connected, and then multi-moment. You'll have also companies fall into like the same four
Yeah, yeah,
categories where,
yeah.
it's minimalistically using AI to fully automating things like using AI and RBA and stuff like that, and then everything in the middle. That's what I think,
Yeah.
because we've talked to a lot of people with like leading brands, and especially in MENA. And we've asked them, how do you view AI? Do you think AI is going to, make a difference and impact on your business? And most of them we're seeing where it goes, and we're seeing how we can incorporate it into our business, but it's
Yeah.
not really making such a big difference right now. And mostly, like
Right.
most of the people that we've talked to with, well, e-commerce and um, other brands like this, but of definite, I mean, outside of the companies that use AI exclusively for their product, um, I think that, companies will have to find a way to navigate AI, because, as a company, you can't say like, yeah, using AI. You have to bucket yourself into one of the four buckets, or like five buckets, or three buckets. It doesn't matter how many buckets it is, but you
Yeah, no,
definitely
right.
at the end of the day, you'll have to say, okay, so the company is fully trained on AI, and we're using AI agents, so we're kind of on a bucket three. Or the company, yeah, some of the people are using AI, and but it is not a company-wide adopted like initiative. So we're kind of
Mhm.
in the nascent, bucket or stuff like that. And you've talked a lot about digital maturity, and you have your own skepticism about AI, and that you're not using AI a lot. So we definitely, like me and you, we definitely fall into two different buckets when it comes to AI. But for
Yep.
companies, because we address companies a lot, and we're talking with our clients, I think it would be very efficient and just good to have such definition to say for the company, okay, so your company would benefit if it is in the nascent, or your company would benefit if
Mhm.
it's in the connected, where you're building one, two, three, four. Because as we said, in
Yeah.
digital maturity, it's not one more tool. I think in AI, it will be just, it's not one more agent or not one more model. Like, it will
Yeah.
make the breakthrough. It's how you utilize AI through a connected web of like stuff like similar to digital transformation. And I will
Oh yeah,
pass
no,
it to
no, not
you.
similar, not similar, not similar. Exactly. You nailed it. Like, yeah, that was, you couldn't have set up the next part of the conversation any better, right? It's not different than digital maturity. Like a company, like whether or not a company is like benefiting from the use of AI, it comes down to many of the same considerations: proper business alignment, leadership, executive sponsorship. Like, is it actually being rolled out within the company according to processes and with skills and expertise? Is it integrated with your data stack and the rest of your technology, right? All of those same considerations that we've hammered on related to kind of digital capabilities in general, all of that applies to AI for sure, for sure. I think, in terms of like just some quadrants that I'm thinking of, we've kind of talked about the whole generative AI stuff. We've talked about the large language models, right? No, like most companies, just that's not where they're investing their time, unless that is your focus as a company. Um, but there's two other areas I do want to make sure we talk about. You just touched on them a little bit. The agentic AI, right? Like, so these are kind of semi autonomous kind of bots of one kind or another that that are have direct access to an underlying model, and they're able to autonomously kind of do certain tasks, right? Like, this is an area where companies that are a bit more at the forefront are definitely utilizing um, these agents. And the big difference is, like, unlike a chatbot that has like five rules or whatever. If a person inquires about their order, call up their order details. If a person inquires about their booking and says cancel, ask, do they want to cancel this reservation, whatever, right? Like those are kind of rules based chatbots, and they serve a purpose. But agents, they actually, because they have a more sophisticated underlying language model that they're taking advantage of, right? They're able to, in a more kind of natural language, conversational style, kind of learn what a user is looking for, or learn what, like based on what task they're assigned to do, they can get better and better, and they can autonomously kind of like they're from the standpoint of the person employing the agent, the AI agent, right? The agent is focused on delivering the task, not being told how to do it, right? So and in that sense, it's a huge opportunity there in making like potentially more sophisticated tasks and deliverables increasingly automated. Like you're seeing it like on some of the, like even some things like the QA and development cycles on software, like some of that stuff can just be done by these autonomous agents, right? Like, so there's some pretty sophisticated tasks that can be handed off to agents. I think in the customer support, troubleshooting, even things like, I know it's not very personalized, but appointment setting. And if you call the hair salon and you have an agent just, oh, you want to come in on April 25th, we have an appointment available at 4 p.m. Like,
Yeah.
right, like, but so that stuff's not that really that difficult, and people are already doing it. That's not even something that's possible. It is being done. uh I mean, some of these things are doing like medical diagnosis too, right? Like in terms of, and they're actually pretty, like even
Decent.
like, yeah. I mean, some of the, like say looking at mammography scans, MRIs, brain scans, and things. Some of those models are pretty darn good at calling out anomalies and potential health issues, like in ways that, like humans are also susceptible to errors, right, and misdiagnoses and stuff. So, I mean, some of this stuff is super, super, super interesting, and I do think in terms of like say use like nodding back to sort of Shopify's CEO, like they're in sort of the e-commerce space, online travel. There will be there already is a push, and there will be an increasing push and investment in leveraging AI agents to do it more and more, no doubt about it. And also just like rote
Yeah.
repeatable tasks. There's definitely no doubt about that. Like it's just that's happening, like whether we like it or not. I have mixed feelings about it, but it's not like it's going backwards probably. Um, and then there's the other place we haven't talked about at all yet, which is much like sort of GPTs, all of the native, kind of AI native apps and embedded AI functionality. That's part of almost every, like it's increasingly part of like every technology platform. So most marketers, advertisers, content people, companies, like if you're using Office 365, right? If you're using Google Suite, for your corporate Gmail and things, you're probably already using AI, even if you don't know it, right? Oh, you get little writing
True.
assistants popping up when you compose an email. You get a little writing assistant. It asks you if you want it to like make it better. If you start searching for things in Office 365, Copilot is going to try and kind of step in and help you, right? Like there's all kinds of things that, if you advertise in Google Ads, there's a whole bunch of AI and ML behind the scenes, and some of it's increasingly also within the UI itself, right? Surfacing insights. You can do natural language queries in Google Ads. You can do natural language queries in Google Analytics and get insights responses, right? Most platforms are embedding these kinds of features, functionalities underlying algorithms, models. Um, so even if you're not investing in AI as a company, you're probably using tools, advertising in places. If you use customer engagement platforms, even though you're not like personally employing AI, probably if you're using any of the automated journey and campaign optimization around, like uh, triggers, automated triggers, optimizing, like, do you send SMS versus email? Do you send, time of day, automatically optimizing time of day, like a lot of these, or, different versioning, whatever those different levers are that get pulled by, say, a platform like Mo Engage, in optimizing your customer engagement channels, right? That, like, you're using AI.
Yeah.
You're just not directly and personally employing it, but the tools you're using are, if you have, like, some many kind of bigger, kind of mid-tier and enterprise companies are Salesforce shops. And if you're using Salesforce and you're taking advantage of any of those things, like, Einstein, right? Like these insights engines, that's all being driven, behind the scenes by sophisticated models. So yeah, I think, to your point, Daoud, right? You could kind of, it may not match exactly to the current digital maturity framework, but conceptually, very much you can fall into these different quadrants. But even if you're very, very nascent, the likelihood that your people and your company are not utilizing AI and ML, or ML and AI at this point, it's pretty unlikely, um, unless you're using hand saws and adzes to carve like handcrafted wood furniture, and you're not selling it online, right? If you only sell it out of your sort of garage, or local retailer, and you don't use the internet at all, then, quite frankly, maybe you're not. But not very many businesses fall into that category at this point. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly interested to see who's gonna be the first one to come up with the framework of like implementing UI to work to work in your company, and like how can you assess which stage you are in and which stage would be optimally best for you. That would be very interesting, to be honest. I mean,
yeah, we should come up with a framework, Doug. Let's do it. I think, I mean, there's already some people. I've seen Scott Brinker has some pretty interesting stuff on it, over at Chief Martech, and I've seen a little bit, but I don't think anybody's really just come out and planted a flag. Like, this is the AI maturity, framework. And I guess in each of those sectors, there would kind of be a different quadrant too. Like, if you're in the companies that are actually developing the models versus,
yeah,
like, so we almost have to verticalize it, right? Like, sort of like, what's the AI maturity for retailers, or for e-commerce, or for, omni-channel? Hey, that's not a bad thought. We need to do that.
yeah, that would make a killer blog, to be honest.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we should do it. We should definitely do that. And how about, could we get an AI agent to give us better personalities, make us cooler?
I mean, we're cool as is. We can use Notebook LM. They have some interesting like sound AI models that, they're good at mimicking how people would interact, and they're pretty fun, to be honest.
There's a couple of video generation platforms that I'm kind of interested in, to really do the full featured aspects of it, like text to video, like in like really powerful. They're a bit expensive, the licenses at this point, so I've been a little reluctant to. But it's
Uh,
something from a research standpoint. I just want to really see, like, how far the best ones have come at this point. But I haven't been willing to just drop my credit card down and find out. But even some of the basic ones are pretty interesting. But
I mean, they're they're kind of not bad. I mean, I think
that's
you
kind
just
of,
need
yeah.
some time to cook.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, to do a really, really, really good deep fake, like other than it just like a photo, I think on the photo end of things, it's pretty gotten to be pretty darn easy. But like what do they call it? The uncanny valley. I mean, like even some of these really,
Yeah,
really expensive, some expensive ads, like people are just like not responding to them well, right? Because they kind of, it's just sort of like there's something about it where you're just kind of like, like like something about your visual response to it, you're just kind of like, it's not real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
which is a good thing, I think, actually. It's a good thing.
But it can get better, and I I don't think we will be able to differentiate between what's AI and what's not, and that's where we shall live in the uncanny valley because
Yeah.
we'll start to just like be skeptical of everything you see. Is this AI? Is this
That I
true?
know. That's when we need to
And
start That's when we need to start rereading European critical theory from the 20th century. Like Jean Baudrillard and Herbert Marcuse. So like simulation and simulacra. Like if you can't tell reality apart from the mimicry, man, we're in a crazy world at that point.
Sony and like a couple of other companies have been implementing like a watermark into AI generated images, and I think this
That's
just needs
good.
to be wildly adopted because be able
I
to
agree.
just like differentiate between what's AI and what's not.
That's good. So not everybody has sold their soul yet. So it's good to see companies like the size of Sony committed to identifying and flagging AI generated, content to say this is, it's important. I agree. It should be widely adopted. Yeah, they say that recently some of the tests, the Turing test or whatever, can a human recognize that something was generated by a computer? I guess it's getting harder and harder for most people to distinguish the best generated content. It's becoming like it's like in this high 60s and low 70% range of people who think it's real legitimate like human generated content. So yeah, it's scary times in that way for sure.
Definitely. All right, so closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. If you're not using generative AI in some way at this point, like as an organization, you're like woefully probably behind the curve in terms of sort of adoption, and like just take it for granted. You're even if as a company you don't have a policy or a process or a commitment to it, your people are using these tools. I'm not saying anything very controversial there. Also, again, even if you think you are not investing in AI, if you are advertising in paid social, in paid search, if you're advertising on LinkedIn, if you're using customer engagement tools, if you're using most corporate productivity suites, you're also using it, embedded AI, and in some cases, applications that are just AI native. So you're using AI in that regard as well. And then the question becomes, like, do you have certain kinds of customer experience, user experience, internal processes, maybe that these kind of more sophisticated AI agents would be an appropriate kind of an investment. You don't have to develop them yourself. Like there are actual people developing these agents that can be trained or already are pre-trained, whatever, right? But so you don't have to actually build the agent yourself, but you might, as a company, benefit from that. And then that other quadrant of actual like the nerds actually developing this stuff. Like most companies, you don't need to necessarily. It's nice to know how a large language model works or
Yeah,
a neural network and all these things. But like honestly, you're unlikely for most companies and brands to be actually investing in
no,
building those things. So yeah,
no.
yeah.
I
You'd be
would
better off.
say,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, I would say let them do the heavy work. They have the budget for it, and just like reap the benefits.
Yep. Cool. Well, we have entertained ourselves yet again, Daoud.
We did.
I will say we haven't had a old school episode where it's just you and I pontificating about digital things in a while. We've had a lot of really good guests. We've had you, Sean, and I doing episodes, but it's nice to just, reconnect and have an old school soapbox.
Yeah, back in my old days.
That's right. All right, brother. Well,
it's good to be back.
Yeah. Enjoy your evening, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see you later. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Daoud. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of digital transformation and gained valuable insights to help navigate the ever-changing landscape. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on our website, e-CENS.com, or connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for more exciting discussions on the forefront of digital innovation. Remember, the future is now, and it's time to embrace the power of transformation. Thanks for listening, and until next time.